Yeah. you not. You are mayor.
What do you need, Annie?
So I can speak first when the time comes. I
Oh.
appreciate it.
It would be my honor.
Thank you so much, my friend.
Yes, sir.
Okay, what we're going to do is we'll let you speak first. Welcome everyone to, it's like a two-part workshop. This first part, as the mayor said, will focus our attention on an ordinance. Our guests here are here to help answer the questions, so there's no ands, ifs, or buts that I, he, or anyone else up here should answer the question the wrong way. We're going to get sort of, let's say, right from the horse's mouth. Okay? Now, we'll afford you, like we do in regular meetings, 3-4 minutes.
Oh, come on, 3-4 minutes. Come on, man.
All right, you're down to 2.
It's an important meeting. I think you should give it more than 2-3 minutes.
Well, if we're gonna, and I and council is not gonna have a problem with that, Vinny, but if we're gonna become repetitious.
Well, that's different, but we have a right to express our opinion.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. So,
And I'm a taxpayer in the city of Shamokin, so I have a right to speak.
Well, you already used 2 minutes now.
Thank you very much.
All right.
We'll see about that.
Yeah, right, 2 minutes.
Okay, she give me 2 more minutes.
Okay.
just like they do in the state senate.
Just make,
Come on up to the podium, Mr. Cook.
just make a note that Mrs. Moyer is participating and listening
Okay,
through the phone.
for the record, we'll make that, that note and incorporate it, in the minutes. Mr. Clausen, come on up to the podium, state your name.
Hi, everybody know me, I'm Vinny Kowalski. I was a former Northumberland County Commissioner. And I'm here to express my opinion.
Is that on?
It is.
Yeah, I'm here to express my opinion about the issue we have in the city of Shamokin. I understand the city is in deficit, $100 million, whatever the number they are. I don't know, you guys know better than me. I'm here concerned, and I'm here to represent the people in Northumberland County, including the city of Shamokin. What I'm concerned is that the council vote to take this to the next steps, to vote the next steps to suit the county to do reassessment. I think this is wrong. I believe that any elected official in this room who will vote to suit the county, not tonight, I'm talking about the next steps, to suit the county, to benefit the city of Shamokin, because the city of Shamokin, they did not manage the money the right way many years back. So I don't think the public in Northumberland County should pay the price. When I was a county commissioner, I went down to Pittsburgh to learn about reassessment. And reassessment is in the beginning, is very brutal. And you need at least $10 million. The county needs $10 million to do reassessment. At that time, when I went to Pittsburgh, it was maybe 8 years ago. At that time, it was $7 million. Maybe today is more than $10 million. So I cannot see the Northumberland County people get punished because the city of Shamokin is broke. The city of Shamokin should figure out how to pay their bill. They should not sue the whole Northumberland County. Okay, I want to hear from you, sir, a little bit. You're the guy who represented this issue, correct? For the record, I used to work in the Reading. You used to work for Reading, the city of Reading.
I did.
What happened when you left the city of Reading? For the record.
We're not here to discuss that, but
Well,
the
you're
question
right.
is, when I was at the city of Reading, yes, the city of Reading was in Act 47.
And what happened in the city of Reading? I'm gonna ask you the question. Why
The city of Reading put together a recovery plan, implemented a recovery plan, and exited Act
he
47.
went broke, right? The city of Reading went broke when he was there.
No,
No, it was not.
no.
But my source told me different. But anyway, I'm not here to fight with you. I just want to know how much you work for the state now, right?
No,
Or you're an independent?
correct.
Okay. I want to know if you know how much money it's gonna cost the county to do reassessment.
As you mentioned, the cost of reassessment varies depending on the needs.
Talking about
Northumberland County being a smaller county compared to one like Luzerne
Right, right.
or Berks County. But you're correct, we've seen estimates and heard of estimates, reassessment costing approximately $10 million.
Okay, so I'm not lying, right? I'm telling the truth. It could be a little more.
Absolutely not.
Okay. And you agreed with me why the old county should get punished, the residents in old county, because the city of Shamokin.
Well, let me stop you because we're not going to get into a back and forth here on you asking me questions. I'm not on the witness stand. We're going to talk about just the
You
fact.
have
I'm
a
gonna
right,
talk
you
about-
have a right to,
I'm going to
you
talk
have,
about the fact.
sir, you have
I
a
am
right to tell the people what's going on. Don't give me that nonsense, I'm gonna go back and forth.
If you stop, I will be able to explain
Go ahead,
the initiative in
Go
the
ahead.
Act 47.
go ahead. You're not gonna buffalo me tonight.
You aren't going to buffalo me tonight
Okay,
either.
let's go.
The Act 47 initiative in the Second Amendment simply states that the city of Shamokin consider suing the county for forcing a reassessment.
That's your ideal, correct?
That is the Act 47
Okay.
coordinating team's
Okay,
recommendation. There are a very limited number of alternatives available to the city or any municipality in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to raise revenue necessary to support its services. Northumberland County has not addressed reassessment in over 50 years.
since 1972,
50 years,
right.
50 plus 72, 22, yes. 50
So-
years. So, the fact that they have not reassessed has put the city of Shamokin and surrounding municipalities in fiscal peril. That's a fact. There are a number of municipalities, not just the city of Shamokin, who are at their tax limit to raise revenue because the county has not reassessed. How those municipalities are going to raise revenue without a new assessment is, we don't know how. There is no way to do that. So if you can't raise the revenue necessary, the city will then be forced to either drastically cut services, which we do not believe is good for the city or Northumberland County. We want the city to be able to have the flexibility to choose how it's going to generate its revenue to support its services.
Okay.
And right now, because of that stale assessment, the city does not.
Okay, now,
We are saying to the city, you need to consider it. It's an alternative. We aren't saying do it. They don't have to do it, but we want them to be aware that it's out there. If they want to get themselves out of Act 47, outside of home rule, outside of the state changing the legislation, there is not another alternative.
okay. What's my concern is, you come from the private sector, correct? You're working for the private sector, right?
Yes.
Okay, you come here, say I'm not a county commissioner right now, okay, but say I was a county commissioner today. Let's assume I was a county commissioner today. Why you should come here in my county and tell me I have to do reassessment because some municipality need money, okay? Now, you know yourself, okay, and I did my study when I was a county commissioner. You know yourself, when you do reassessment, you give it the power to all of the municipality, include, not just the municipality, the city, the municipality, whatever, include the county. You give an open checkbook. They can raise the tax whatever they want. It's not a limit to how much tax they can raise. You know that, and I know that. I'm right or wrong?
Wrong.
What?
Because you
Explain.
still have the statutory limit of the tax millage. You're wrong.
What kind of statutory limit you gonna have?
The same one you have right now.
Reassessment.
The the same one you have right now. The county code doesn't change, the third-class city code doesn't change, the township code
Yeah,
doesn't
so we
change.
bring in the limit, so we bring in the tax from 1 to 20, a ratio, and we go from 20 to 50 or 20 to 40, okay? You know you can raise the tax whatever you want up to that limit.
Just the same as you can right now. No change.
What I'm saying to you, and I'm addressing to the city of Shamokin, you guys better not sue the county for reassessment. Because I will guarantee you, you guys will all get thrown out of office. Okay, I'm done with my speech, and I thank you to listen to me.
Thank you, Mr. Clausy.
You're welcome.
Would anyone else like to address anything on the Act 47?
I would.
Oh, Joe?
No, Brenda was up.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Adjusting my shirt, sorry.
For the record, is this on?
Yeah,
Yes, it
Can you
is.
hear me? There is another way that the city can get out of Act 47. The city can take a $5 million loan. That's a lot of money. Take the loan out for 25 years, okay? I've worked the numbers. It would increase everyone's taxes in the city of Shamokin approximately 3.8 mils.
That's a long-term debt you're talking
That's correct.
about. That's the next.
Long-term debt, correct. And then the city could get out of Act 47 and not have to sue the county. It can be done. And yes, the taxes will go up for every taxpayer.
But that's on a long-term debt.
It's
because
on
I'm hearing-
long-term debt
Yeah.
and everyone would be able to afford it. On an average home, I would say their taxes would go up $40 to $50 per year. Divide that by 365 days. What is it, a quarter a day? Your taxes would go up. Yes, we're pushing the issue because I was told this.
Listen,
I'm pushing the issue down the road, and yes, I am, but that's what governments do.
Then let me answer your question a little bit. When I was a planning commission, we raised a long-term debt, maybe $20 million.
Okay.
And we paid to the long-term, in long-term debt, you can raise the tax, you can raise that tax any way you want.
Absolutely, there is no cap.
So these people coming here from Reading or the state and tell us how to live, that's not right.
I have no vote.
Well, let's see who's gonna vote yes, and I'll be here to hunt all you guys.
Can I,
Yeah, would you like me to address that first? Or we can- Sure. To address the idea of a pension borrowing. A pension borrowing is something that we have considered. It was something that we even talked about the city doing last year or the year before. However, that is not going to solve the problem. Period. You float a pension bond to fund the outstanding liability of the pension fund. It will help from a cash flow perspective. Absolutely. You will be able to lower your MMO, would provide some flexibility. It will not solve the problem. Additionally, we're taking a look at that, and the idea to us as a coordinating team of doing a pension bond, we would want to keep the maturity of that payoff, that liability, the same as it currently is. The unfunded liability of the pension fund is amortized over about a 9-year period. It changes every single year because a new liability comes out, gets pushed, but it's about a 9-year payoff. It also assumes a certain interest rate as a rate of return. So you're paying that liability off at an assumed rate of return. The idea that Brenda is proposing is like you at home taking a 9-year loan and then punting that and refinancing it and kicking it out 25 years. So instead of paying 9 years worth of interest at a lower rate, what the recommendation there is let's take this 9-year loan, push the term to 25, and pay even more in interest.
Who cares?
We are not, that is not something that we believe is a good policy to set, as opposed to addressing the true operational issue of annual revenues not meeting annual expenses.
You say we believe, you should say I believe, you're the one you believe that, not everybody else. You're the one you believe that.
We, as a coordinator team and the state, believe.
Okay, my question is, I mean, this is a tough one. Home rule was voted against twice.
That's right.
Right. Suing reassessment is not an option.
No.
So what you're saying is that the only other option is drastically cutting services. What services are we cutting? Because I'll tell you what, that's a double-edged sword there, because I'm assuming everybody knows in the city, that means getting rid of the police department.
No, it's up.
And you get rid of the police department, you think it's bad. Now I'm moving. I'm out of here. You know,
Why?
and I love this city, but our city depends on public safety. And public safety is the police department, and I deal with a lot of youth. It's the public facility of the pool, because I'm telling you what, you shut the pool down, you're gonna have 300 kids doing nothing but trouble out there. So what options do we have besides this? I mean, Brenda, I like Brenda's idea that, I mean, for 25 years, for a lower, I came in here knowing that my taxes will probably go up. They probably will. They already are for the last 8 years, and I've been paying them. I've already been paying. I mean, it's nothing I miss. I mean, so next year, if we can't do it, and all of a sudden I have lower taxes, I'll be like, well, what the hell? I don't want lower taxes if I don't have a police department. I'm sorry, you know?
So can I
Yeah.
talk to you a little bit? Okay. I agree with you. Nobody wants to see the cops go. I agree. We need the cops because drug is going all over the place.
Yes.
Okay. I agree with you 100%. But the city of Shamokin, Cole Township, and the surrounding area, we have a lot of half a double in the area.
Excuse me, wait a minute. We're getting off, and this is exactly what I don't
Okay, then
want
you
to
guys
see.
talk.
First of all, we don't need it. We want to support those services. Our recommendations are aimed to keep those things. We want to see the police department at full staff. We want to see the public works department at full staff. And we have tried at every turn to provide alternatives that allow that to happen. Unfortunately, home rule failed twice, and we're now left where we are. So the alternatives are what we've presented, and if that doesn't happen, what would most likely happen is either a severe cut in services, which we don't support. So ultimately, the city would have to exit Act 47, and then most likely either reapply and get back in, or go into receivership. Because nobody on our side of the table wants to see those cuts, because we also believe that that would be a detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the city. And the city has made incredible strides over the last 8 years in Act 47. One, with its finances, but two, the work that has been done downtown and the development there. And we also agree with the recreation. We don't want to cut recreation services. We want to make sure that those services are there for the people and for the kids. And that's what we're trying to present. To the point also on the pushing out of that loan, even at that, pushing the 25-year liability out to 25 years, you're still not going to make up the $800,000 shortfall. So you can push that out. You can save yourself $400,000, and you're still going to be $400,000 short. So you're still stuck.
But what if, what if we can't sue? What if that says, no, we can't sue for, what if we lose that? What if we lose these, the reassessment job? Then we're stuck again anyway.
Obviously, anytime you go to court for litigation, that's a possibility based upon past court decisions, we don't believe that would happen here in Northumberland County.
What's it gonna cost us to sue them?
Nothing.
The city, for us to sue them, it's gonna cost us something.
No, you would have to pay the
somewhere.
legal fees. What we would also recommend, one of the things I would like to point out is that the city of Shamokin is not the only municipality facing the tax cap right now. You have surrounding municipalities who are facing this as well. The same recommendation is included in financial recovery plans that have been drafted for them. They're the watered down, the stamp program from DCE, but both City of Sunbury and Cole Township have similar recommendations that both of those municipalities consider forcing a reassessment throughout the county. This is not just a City of Shamokin issue. So one of the things we would look at and recommend is if the municipality were to consider, again, the purpose of this is consider, we would recommend working with those other municipalities to do it jointly and split those costs.
So the major part of this is pensions, right? That the reason we are as far and high as we are in debt. Why are we not looking into pensions? Like, what can we do about certain pensions that we're paying astronomical amounts of money for? Why can't we look back into that to find out the problem? Or we're basically just, it's over.
Constitutionality of being able to reduce the benefit that they're currently getting for retirement. We have addressed pensions. I will say that one of the big proponents just walked into the room here, former mayor, current councilman, Milbrand, addressed the pensions drastically with the rest of the council when they made the changes to the police collective bargaining pension and converted those pensions to a lawful benefit. That was a huge change and
So what's
drastic
paid
impact.
is just paid, there's nothing that can be done.
We cannot go back and fix that.
Okay, this is Lashinsky for the record, and that was a hot topic years ago. In regards to going back and making changes to what the council back then did. And the labor attorney for the city had told us that it would cost a lot of money to defend because the police union, et cetera, will put up one hell of a legal battle if you try to do that. Yes, sir.
So I had a question maybe to clarify. So you talked about receivership as a consequence of not taking action in some of these areas.
Nonsense.
Maybe you can, well, I'm just saying, explain it. I just want to understand. And then the other thing is, when you were explaining, it's just like running your own budget at home, right? If you have these debts and you're not making the money for an individual, you go out and get another job. You got to generate income somewhere. So what about, has that been discussed? How do we generate more income in the county without it being, I realize government goes to taxes, but in some way, people can generate income other ways. So could you talk about those two? Have those things been talked about? Economic development, I use that word, but what's the possibility? I mean,
Well, obviously, we've always encouraged economic development within the city, and they've done a fantastic job over the last 3 to 4 years of developing the downtown. And you see businesses starting to move here and open facilities and that growth. That does absolutely help. And all of those things increase in the number of employees downtown, potentially moving here to be able to live here. That increases your EIT collection, all of those things. But they take time and they're smaller pieces as we go. You always move forward and push those and consider them. But when you look at the size of the gap in the city's budget outside of that EIT collection that the additional 1% brings in, there really aren't alternatives available to municipalities to generate that revenue because, as you pointed out, it's the taxes, right? And all of those are dictated by the code in the third class and throughout the statutes of Pennsylvania. So there's really an inability to generate additional revenue any other way.
so if I might, just to follow up, I'm like a lawyer, but I'm not. And it seems to me that you're talking about the citizenry that has the demographics of the citizenry, they're maxed out in terms of what they can pay. So like you had a comment here, if this happens, I'm gonna move. So then you're spiting your own face, you're driving people out, but you want to bring them in. So you're in a quandary there, I understand. But then you mentioned receivership. Is that like, again, an analogy for me to understand that I can't pay my dues, so the landlord comes in and takes my house, or the bank takes your house, or it's just, hey, the game gets changed and you're out on your own?
It's not quite to that extent, and I'll address as much as I can, and if I get something incorrect, Jim, if you want to step in, please feel free. But right now, under Act 47, there's a recovery plan, and the recovery plan is presented to council, and the council approves it and adopts it by resolution, but then it's the council's responsibility to implement that. The council still manages the day-to-day affairs. It still does its governance. Under receivership, that switches. It's no longer council running the day-to-day affairs of the city, but the receiver, whom is appointed by the state, is then in charge of running the affairs of the city.
And those people make the decision, the hard decision, which maybe the council and the citizenry don't want to address, but they're saying, hey, we're talking about the money and the numbers. And
then it's also
you're forced by law to have to follow that, right? And deal with it until you pay your debt.
That's correct.
Okay, that's the bottom line.
And you're taking it out of the city's control and you're
Correct.
putting it into somebody else's control, appointed by the state.
And one more, and then I'll keep quiet. So understanding the whole, so at such a time as the receivership makes up for the debt, does the city then get its power to make judgment back, or do they have to go through another process to home rule?
If the receiver would be able to turn the finances around and get it stable, yes, it would then go back.
Go back to the city making judgments.
Correct.
But there's always the consequences if you don't pay your bills, right?
Yes.
You mentioned Act 47, exit Act 47 and then reapply. What does that mean?
Right, so under Act 47 of the code, you cannot be in any longer than the time frame specified. So you would have to exit. However, in the Act 47 law, there's nothing preventing a municipality for reapplying and coming back in after it is out. So you would still have to prove one of the 11 criteria and reapply to get back into Act 47, at which time the Department of Community and Economic Development could consider that application. There's no guarantee they accept it. They might say no and put you to receivership. They might just say no. I'll try to figure it out. But yeah, that's basically what would happen.
But how could they exit?
You're forced to exit by law. You have no choice. You would exit, and you would not be financially viable the minute you exit.
So they just say they want to exit and then receivership takes over. I don't
Not
understand. We have to do so many steps before exiting. So how can we exit and then reapply?
You have, in order to exit on your own, you have to prove that you're financially viable. If you do not prove that you're financially viable before the time frame under Act 47 expires, you are forced out.
Oh,
So once you're forced out, you no longer get the EIT,
right.
you no longer get any of that stuff. So you're forced out because you haven't met the timeline. You're no longer financially viable. You would have to meet one of the 11 criteria to potentially reapply.
Mike, hold on a minute. Mike, are you done?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Plaza, go ahead.
Another minute and a half. Also, I want to tell the press, because they could print it tomorrow in the newspaper. When they do reassessment, most of the small home, like the way I was saying, Montgomery, Shamokin, Coleman, Township, they have a lot of half a double around the area. It's a very few bigger homes here. You know, under the reassess formula, the half a double, the one that get punished the most. The house, what's it worth, $750,000, it go down goes like this. High house go down, the little house go up. You aware of that? Under the reassessment rule?
I don't believe you'd be factually accurate. I would like to see where you get that information. What I do know is during reassessment, all of the property within Northumberland County will be reassessed on a market value that is true and accurate, which means that every single property then has a equal market value and is a fair.
Okay, now I'm glad you said that. So as a home right now, it's reassessed 8.5 and 9, or being say half a double is reassessed. Let me give you a number, $6,500. Okay, and the new reassessment, that's under the old reassessment, 1972. And the new reassessment, they're gonna bring the house from $6,000 to $20,000, because 50 years ago it was $3,000. Now it's $80,000, $50,000, $30,000. So why you told me that that's not true? Because the little house is gonna go up and the big house is gonna come down.
During reassessment, he's not correct. During reassessment, all properties are reassessed and all values are assessed at the fair market value. So immediately, your tax base is going to be based on the fair value of every single property. Some taxes are gonna go up for properties, some are gonna go down,
Thank you,
and some are gonna stay the same.
thank you.
So, to use this as an example, if you have 3 homes, and I handed this sample out to everybody earlier this morning, at $100,000 of total taxable assessment, and we split those those properties into different assessed values, called 135,000, 155,000, and the other one 15,000. And in total, that's 100,000. We reassess, everybody's property values go up, and the new total, instead of being 100,000, is 200,000. But we cut the tax rate in half. So the bill stays exactly the same in aggregate. That's what reassessment is.
So
It is not an increase in tax.
the reassessment 1972, it was $3,500 for half a double. 50 years later, you know that half a double is gonna worth at least $30,000.
And then you reduce the taxes so that you maintain the same tax bill.
Then you better go to school again, okay? Thank you very much. And one more thing, why the city of Shamokin, it should be a scapegoat to raise the tax to the whole county for all the municipalities? Why you not go someplace else and tell them to raise the tax?
It's already, as I just mentioned, in Polk Township's stamp.
I never see you
program.
at a meeting of that.
Oh, because I didn't do their stamp. I didn't do their stamp report. Another consultant did their stamp report and made the same recommendation. It's also in the city of Sunbury's as well.
I guarantee you that the township is not gonna sue the county, I guarantee you that.
And if the county doesn't reassess.
I'm done,
that's
because my
okay.
time is up. My time is up.
Mr.
My question.
Hold on a second, Mr. Miller.
That's good. My question, and I know I don't sound like a broken record, and I've asked this question before. About how many municipalities right now are in Act 47 throughout the state?
In Northumberland County.
No, just, I'm asking about across the state. I'm
Okay,
looking at something else. How many across the state, in ballpark?
Doesn't?
A dozen municipalities? Okay.
good.
Has every single one of those municipalities gone home rule except us?
No,
No, there's a mix of municipalities that have. But the ones that were in the same boat as you, majority of them have gone home.
The majority, but not all.
No, not all.
Okay, so how many of these municipalities who have chosen not to go home rule, not to do everything and exited Act 47, how many ended up in receivership? 2?
two in the whole state.
Well, most municipalities will follow through on the recommendations and do what is the best thing for the municipality.
Name how many.
Because I can tell you this, under home rule, under home rule, you'd be able to keep your earned income tax, which everybody in this room who is working is already paying. They're already paying 1% extra, and until maybe a year ago, there were no complaints. No one complained about it because 1% of a paycheck isn't that much. And it allowed the city to maintain a full police department, a full street department, and start to make some
So you gotta
improvements.
raise tax to maintain that.
You
Okay?
can't raise
I'm
taxes.
just saying to you, the
But
reason.
you're at the limit, and what home rule would have permitted.
Yeah.
No, listen to me, please. We've listened to you. Home rule would have permitted the city to maintain its higher earned income tax, which would be enough, because it's enough right now to provide the city with everything that you
Well,
have.
you're gonna raise my tax for $300 a month to $1,200 a month on a new reassessment.
Maybe, maybe not.
Maybe you guys don't wanna tell the truth.
Well,
Flip
no,
flop.
I'll tell you the truth.
Flip
Don't
flop.
ever accuse me of that, Mr.
Well,
Clausy.
flip flop.
Don't ever tell me of that, Mr. Clausy.
You
You don't know me well enough.
Go ahead.
I'll tell you this.
Go ahead.
Luzerne County reassessed. I have an ancient house that had very low value, and my taxes did increase. But I knew it was going to when I bought the house, because I knew that we were going to have an increase. My taxes increased. You know how you could have stopped that? You know how the city could have prevented it? If the city had chosen to enact home rule, we wouldn't be having this conversation about reassessment. We are looking, the city now is backed itself, because the state hasn't done it. The city has backed itself into a corner by limiting the options that it can use to get rid of the deficit. This deficit isn't going to go away, Mr. Claus.
I understand.
No, I don't know if you do. 7 years, 7 years, we've been working together with this city, and the city has looked at everything. We have looked at everything. There's nothing left. I don't want to see the cops come out of here. I read the paper. I would never want to see a reduction in police force here.
Nobody said that. Why you guys scared of people about?
Because you
reduction of police
brought
officers?
it up twice earlier. So that's all, that's the only thing I'm
It
saying.
brings up every meeting, you scare people with cutting it.
Yeah, everybody.
No.
The police, the police, the police, the police. Mr. Mayor, it's a joke. This is a joke.
Hey, if you're given an opportunity to speak, Mr.
Joe.
Clausy, he's given an opportunity, Mr. Lasinski will be given one.
And
Y'all
Mr.
three
Clausy-
want to yell and scream at each other?
No, I'm
It'll
not
be
gonna-
my recommendation to the
apologize.
mayor to
I
stop
apologize.
the meeting.
This is a joke.
Mr. Clausy, it may be a joke to you, but it's a joke to you
I will
because
honor
you
you
don't
guys
like
to the
the
day I
answers.
die. You guys will never have a reassessment in the city of Shamokin.
Look, that's fine, but then
I
what's gonna
spent
happen?
$100,000.
So, Mr. Clausy,
Come on.
if you are successful, what's gonna happen in the city?
We can look at different things. You guys, it's all what you want to do, raise tax.
You got to. Who else is gonna pay the bills? The citizens of Shamokin live here.
Also, you're
And
gonna maintain your job, he's gonna maintain his job, correct?
You're not paying me,
Who's paying you?
the state.
Okay,
So it's
taxpayer, I
everyone
pay
in
you
the
too, I
state.
pay the tax.
All right, if you wanna look at it that way, sure, Mr. Clausy. Mr. Clausy, I understand that you're vehemently opposed to this. You've made that
I'm opposed to
crystal
Cumberland
clear.
County residents.
Yes, and I think I know why.
Why?
Because you don't want to see the city move out of Act
I
47.
never say
Well, why
that.
else would you say that?
I never say, I don't have more money
Are you
in
running
this
for
town than you
office?
ever did in your life. Don't accuse me for nonsense.
Are you running for office?
Who cares? I'm not here to run for office. Listen, I
I'm just saying, Mr.
fight
Clausy.
the city 5 years ago, I fight the city 2 years ago, and I'll fight them again. And don't accuse me, I'm running for the office. I'm running for office to stop people like you.
Okay, enough.
Thank you.
Enough.
I agree.
You're
Good man.
You
You're
can
welcome.
say something.
Enough.
No, wait,
Hold on.
I had the floor.
He
Oh,
had the
I'm
floor.
sorry. I forgot.
Now.
Go ahead.
I have millions of dollars, I don't need a politician's money.
I'm gonna go back to, and I'm sure, Ryan, you know what I'm coming back to, and why can't the amendment be made to third class city code and we go on in life?
That's a good question.
Exactly.
Why? I wanna know why, and if we have to go to our representatives, if we have to go to our congressman, whoever we have to go to, I want an answer why third class city code cannot be amended to allow us to have that extra percent And it could even be set up to with the same way we do with the property tax. We go to the to the judge of the county, and we say we're in financial distress, we need 5 extra mills, they give it to us. The same thing could be done with the earned income tax. You go to the judge of the county, you say, we need extra money, okay, you can have that extra 1%. If the judge doesn't feel you need it, he doesn't grant it, and you stay at 1%. But third class city code, why can it be changed? And that seems like the whole,
That's good,
Yeah.
that's a darn good question.
and you know what, I've asked this from day one, 7 years ago.
Yes, you did.
And I've been on this and on this ever since. I wanna know why. I can't get an answer why from any politician or anybody in Harrisburg or anything else. I can't get an answer why that can't be done. Because when I first came on city council, the property taxes, we could only assess 25 mills, and you could go an extra 5 to 30. While I was on council the first time, before I was mayor, that was changed. Third class was changed to allow for 30% or 30 mills, and you could go an extra to 35. It was changed then. Why can't it be changed now?
Who changed
I
it?
want to know why.
Who changed it?
Harrisburg.
Why? People like that.
I have an answer to
Why?
that, Mayor, or, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Mayor,
no.
Mayor.
No,
Well,
whatever.
yeah, we hire a lobbyist.
You wanna answer? Go ahead, Mr. Rose, answer Mr. Miller.
May I?
Yes.
All right. Mayor Milburn. Here's the answer. In the entire time that we've been working with you in this city, we have been actively lobbying the legislature to make those changes. We have something called the Local Government Committee, which is established by the Democrats and the Republicans, and they've been making the recommendation. We don't have the ability because honestly, I agree with you 100%. The problem is that for whatever reason, your elected state officials, meaning your senators and your reps, do not want to change what needs to be changed. Local government, some of the codes are ancient and they are so out of touch. And third-class cities is the primary example. You guys are left with very restrictive ways to raise money for the city. And you're left with ways that no longer work in 2022. I think that if you look back at 1932, it would work, but if they don't work now. So, and this is not a cop-out. We work all the time with the legislature to try to get them. We have lobbyists to work with them.
Thank you.
And if I'm not mistaken, there was legislation, there was a House Bill 2552 or something like that. The number was House Bill something or other.
That might be the right number.
For the city of Harrisburg, something like that. There was 2s and 5s in it.
City card makes millions of dollars lobbyists.
But that they tried to do that for city. Why won't the legislature change this?
Well,
What is wrong?
you have to start with your local senator and your local rep.
Why you
And
don't
you
do
need to talk
something
to
about
them.
it with them politicians?
You need to talk to them.
Why you guys don't do something? City clerk, why you guys don't go after the politicians? You know why you guys
I'm
don't?
not CEDACOG, I'm the state.
I thought it was city clerk.
No,
Okay, I'm sorry.
this department, come on.
I'm sorry.
If I was CEDACOG, I wouldn't get a tax bill.
Mr. Mayor Milburn, to also address the one city that really fits where you were, that I can think of, is the city of Altoona, who's in Act 47. They were at their tax cap, and they also sat in a county that had a incredibly old, even older than Northumberland County assessed valuation. Two things changed in their Act 47 then. One, they said, move to home rule. The citizens of the city of Altoona voted and approved home rule. Two, the county also reassessed. And because between those two things, they were able to exit within 5 years. Here in the city of Shamokin, same recommendations, same exact issues, neither have happened.
Instead of spending the money on attorneys, why can't we, and I said this 7 years ago, why can't the city take some money and spend that on a lobbyist?
That's in your Act 47 plan as a recommendation or initiative.
Okay, so then why haven't we done it?
Why haven't you done it?
I don't have a vote, I didn't know it was in there. That should have been done immediately. And maybe something could have changed at the state level.
But if we
Are there
accept
other
to do the
cities
lobbyist thing, does that mean we have to agree to consider the countywide assessment? Is it bunched together? If we vote for one thing, it's gonna be everything or nothing?
No,
That's already been voted on.
yeah, it's already been voted and approved and
Right, I heard
So-
you say, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
I just have two other questions, Doreen. How many cities have got out of Act 47 that were in receivership? How many receivers got the cities out?
don't say, I believe there's only two.
There's only two who have had receivers.
Chester and Harrisburg.
Okay, so are they,
Harrisburg was one of them.
are they still?
But Harrisburg was a totally different situation than ours.
They're both totally different situations.
They are.
Harrisburg had the whole incinerator fiasco, which is drastically different than yours. And then the city of Chester, if you feel that this is a poor town, go to the city of Chester.
Okay, my third question, or my third statement. I guess I'm confused when you're saying if the county did a reassessment, it would be a fair market value. Because currently, the homes are not assessed at fair market value.
Thank you, it's gonna go up 10 times.
Like my home is worth $100,000, okay? I just had my house assessed. Cause I took a big loan to buy a piece of land. My assessed value is $14,500.
The home, they'll have to double, they own it,
They're only assessed,
$900.
well, they're assessed, most of them, 4,000, but the people pay 20, 25, 35 for them. So I'm confused with that.
So when they do the reassessment and they set the base on fair market value, so to your point, you just had your home appraised.
Right.
So the appraisal came in at $100,000.
Right.
They would do a countywide assessment, your new assessment would be closer to that $100,000 number, right?
Okay.
So at that point, you would then look at your total taxable assessment now, your new total taxable assessment, and then you are forced to lower your tax rate so that you bill the same. So your aggregate bill pre-assessment and your new aggregate bill post-reassessment have to remain the same. You are allowed what they call a windfall. So you are allowed a small increase of 10% without having to increase taxes. But you reset the base. So instead of 35 mils, you would divide that, say your property, say the assessed valuation went up 20-fold. You would divide your millage by 20, and your new millage would be that lower amount. So your taxes don't go up. There's a rebalancing of those taxes. So if based on market value, so if you could be paying more now than you potentially would in the future on property tax.
They don't go up,
Why
like,
didn't
how
you
is
ask my
that gonna
question
help
before?
us revenue?
Because then you do have the capacity to raise your taxes. So you won't be at the cap. So instead of being at 35 mils, you're now at 10 mils. But because you're at 10 mils, you do have the capacity to increase those taxes by way of vote of council. Council say,
And they would
okay,
have to, they would
and-
have to.
right, but that would then provide you the revenue to support the services, to pay the police officers, to keep them on the street.
Open checkbook.
So, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
not open checkbook.
Actually, it would be political suicide if you went out there. and said,
Exactly.
"Taxes all the time."
You raise taxes to the point that you need them. I have said this repeatedly. I said it in an interview today. I've said it
How
to
am I
Mayor, I've said it to Mayor Milburn a million times. I've never met an elected official that likes to raise taxes.
Well, once you.
Ever.
But.
Not one.
1%, I'd rather keep 1% than raising my.
You don't have
tax.
that option. You don't have that option.
I know.
Done with, which the statements that you had? 'Cause I know you
Yes,
said you had-
Doreen's next.
Doreen, hold on. Joe, it's your turn. I'll let them go first.
Well, you only got 2 minutes.
All right, if you want me to give me 2 minutes.
Well, I'll give you 3.
Yeah, I have a question.
All right, I'm Joe Lashinsky. I live in the city. I'm a recently elected city councilman here. This is the first time since May of last year you guys have been really available to the public to answer questions. One question I have about that, I was on the run for, you mentioned the home rule, which I told everyone it was home rule, and obviously I was correct. Wasn't really a study commission. The goal was to push home rule and the tax rates through. So did 3 weeks to the day, it was reported by the news item that, and you're not on the witness stand. I know there's an attorney available if you need one, but I'm not.
No attorneys here.
Okay.
Well, one.
Yeah.
6.
But, 3 weeks to the day, it was reported in the news item that we got an 18-month extension. It was never mentioned, because of COVID, it was never mentioned at any of the 2 public meetings he's had prior to the vote. Did you guys know that there was an 18-month extension on the table, or did after the vote was turned down, it just windfalled out of the air and we got, Shamokin got an 18-month extension?
The 18-month was always available. It doesn't change the fact that you can't survive.
And how many times did you disclose that there was an 18-month extension to the public?
We talked about it with the council multiple times, and the fact doesn't change the fact that you needed home rule.
So you're saying,
18-month extension or not.
so you're
still
saying
can't
you guys
survive
discussed
outside of
this.
that court.
So you're saying you guys discussed this at both those meetings because they were videotaped.
Recommendation would remain the same. Recommendation.
But the
of
public
home
didn't
rule.
know that we had an 18-month extension possibility,
At the 18 months, you still aren't able to survive.
but it was an option prior to the vote.
You have 18 months now.
Okay.
It doesn't change the fact that the city of Shamokin is not sustainable outside of Act
Okay.
47.
So
It just push the inevitable.
you talked twice about the home rule vote. The people of the whole entire city, you've had an opportunity to present your case to the people who opposed it like myself, and I know I'm the headhunter for both times. I wear that proudly on my shoulder because something I believed in, and that's why I believe, honestly, after last year I was elected. But the home rule vote was shot down twice.
That's right.
So now we go from taking the power out of the citizens' hands, like with the vote. Now you want these 5 people who realistically, no offense to anybody here, but a majority of them were not elected in the last cycle. So, and I get it. I'm not being disrespectful. They were maybe in different positions or have served here before. I get it. But it doesn't fit with what was voted on last year. You're asking these 5 people now to make a decision to realistically piss off everybody in the county. While I'm on the county topic, mayor, council, how many times has Commissioner Chicatano, Commissioner Best, or Commissioner Klebon contacted you about this issue? Because it's been out here for weeks.
0.
They've never been here.
Why you should be a scapegoat?
So to have these 5 here piss off the entire county by saying because we have an issue with the budgets or we have an issue maintaining financial solvency, we want to come after everyone. You realize you guys would all be suing yourselves eventually. And I know some of you may have other options outside of Shamokin, but as long as you're within the county, you're going to feel the same efforts. The resolution on the table with the suggestions that Mayor Milbrand had when he first brought that up years ago, I said I would do it. I started doing the research. I started contacting all the municipalities that were in Act 47. I spoke to a lot of them. I have data compiled on this same topic. The main thing was the tax millage rates was the reasons for it. There was a lot of different scenarios between different. You're talking, well, Harrisburg is in a different league than we are here. We don't have the business they do. We don't have the operations they do. So every situation to live within their means is different. But why can't, if lobbying is an option, I mean, we're paying labor attorneys for years, to fight the cops and do this and that and fight, this and that. For 4 years before I got here, 4 years before I got here, I watched the mayor sit there, not Mr. Ulrich, the last one, who was a beneficiary to questionably an illegal pension. I'm not taking a shot at him personally, but we're talking finances here. I have nothing against the man personally, who sat there and with the group passed these cost of living adjustments through every year, raising the MMO. Okay, Act 47 is supposed to oversight that. Every year it was passed through with a majority vote. I got here on January 3rd. January 5th, I get a letter in my inbox. Cost of living adjustments coming up. 18 names are on the list. Said something ain't right here. This was something I spoke about. We're never going to get out of it, and I'm not going to say how we get out of it, but eventually that's going to happen. But 2 days after I was here, I got this about the cost of living adjustment. I reached out to you. I said about contacting a labor attorney, and here it turns out only 2 instead of 18 were entitled to that cost of living. I don't know. I never got the exact number, but I can only imagine it was a very large saving. It was the largest amount, 5% ever offered. So that saved people here money. I prided myself on being a watchdog while I was here. That's what I said I would be. And I'm still going to do it from the outside. So with this resolution, with the property tax reassessment, how much would this, how would, we know the number's around 10 million to start that. And that would be probably most likely funded eventually by everybody in Northumberland County to pay that reassessment money back. But how much, I'm not worried about Sunbury, Norrie, Milton, Watsontown, Mount Carmel, Mount Cole Township. I want to know how much is a reassessment. How sure are you that a reassessment is going to net the city of Shamokin a profit? And how much is it going to generate in revenue? How do you know it's going to make up that amount to keep us solvent in the long run?
That's my question. Thank you, Joe.
We think, great minds think alike.
I don't care.
Based on the market values that were provided by Brenda gets both market and assessed values in her files. The market values currently are already enough to provide the flexibility and enough room to generate the revenue necessary.
So, like I live down by James's Pizza. Everybody knows where that is. I may look on Zillow. It may say my house is worth $50,000, but the 4 properties around me sold at a tax sale for $500. Now, how much are we really gonna? How much is that really gonna generate? That's what I'm saying. There's so many homes.
I understand what you're saying.
And I understand the price of everything is going up in 50 years, but we're taking a $10 million gamble. If we end up getting lower rate, most of the people, there's a lot of poverty in the area, a lot of people on HUD, a lot of people that pay rent. This eventually down the road, it affects the renters too, because the property owner of the place, when the assessed value comes and the city has to do whatever they have to do, their rent's going to eventually go up to cover costs, So what I was getting at was, go ahead, I'm sorry, I burned out.
I was kind of going through there and going, waiting for the question, but
Yeah, how do you know how much it's going to generate? Or would it?
based
How do we
on the
know?
information that we've been able to review and the market value that we've seen on those files, we believe that there is enough capacity there that the new assessed value throughout Northumberland County would generate an increase in the baseline assessment in the city of Shamokin. Additionally, when we talk about, we want, we're not looking for the city of Shamokin to make people angry with them. We understand that some of the decisions they may need to make, that might be an outcome, but that's not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do and what we're recommending and what we're charging everybody with and be charged with all elected officials already is to ensure for the public health, safety, and welfare of citizens of Shamokin. And in order to do that, you need the revenue necessary to pay for those services. And so to that end, unfortunately, the outcome might be people are upset with a reassessment. But the purpose of that is to ensure that we can put police in the streets. It's to ensure that we can get public works out there who can plow the streets and salt it. It's ensure that recreation services are available for kids so that they're not creating mischief in the summer. That's what we're charging, and that's what we want the elected officials to do.
Okay, so we're gonna do excuse me 1 minute, Joe. We're gonna do this reassessment, and we're gonna penalize all of the folks who are fixed incomes and all the property owners in town. Whereas if we keep the 2% or the extra 1%, we're only affecting the working people. And as you said, Jim, most people don't even notice it.
Right.
You're right, and it's flowing. Why can't we get third class?
Billy, this is what I was getting into. So here's what happened. It's been,
The answer to that question is the state can change a third-class city code. Just because they can doesn't mean they will, and they have.
Not us.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, I'm not
No,
saying
no,
it.
the elected officials
That's why I'm
can,
with you.
but they have. And so unfortunately, we understand your gripe. We agree with you. I would love to see major changes in the third-class city code. But we unfortunately have to deal with the tools that we have available to us and what's within our control right now. And this is what's within the city's control. The city can hire a lobbyist. They should certainly consider doing so and allocating resources.
He just took over a new job.
But there's no guarantee, even with those lobbyists, that will happen.
so that was something I wanted to say, like, as far as the lobbying legislation, like, we had one of the top House representatives in the state in leadership from our area, just in Harrisburg. We had Senator Gordner, who was in a leadership position in Harrisburg. Billy, when you were here, I don't know if it was when you were here, well, I know when the last administration was here, Kurt even attended some of the meetings, but didn't speak on. They reached out and said, would you find a way to do what Milbrand had said? To my knowledge, there was never a response. So now we have put maybe Linda Schlegel, maybe our Aunt Joanne Sturr coming in, who are starting at the bottom, basically in there would be if they were, if Linda, whatever the new positions. How do we expect someone now to go and change that when we had the legislators here? Because, and I think, Billy, the answer is, and I know this was reported by Daily Item and News Item, Stevens and Lee donates millions of dollars in campaign money, right, for legislative campaigns throughout the Pennsylvania State Senate and the Pennsylvania State House. Correct? Or there's the media lying again, because that's a possibility.
Fake news.
Because I asked Kurt in a meeting I had with him prior to taking my seat. I asked him if he ever took a dime from Stevens and Lee. He couldn't tell me.
Excuse me, okay, we need to bring this to the end, okay?
Don't
We're
cut
getting
me
into
off.
the next meeting.
I'm almost done. So, but just one last thing. So what message is this? Every time we talk, we got to scare everybody. We're going to cut the cops. We're going to cut this. We're going to cut that. I can't believe that we're the only unique, and we are unique. We're the only unique municipality in the entire state of all 67 counties that fall into this exact fit. There's ways to do it. There's ways to go about it. Why would our own state rep? So Dan Muser can get us $2 million for downtown. Well, what makes the downtown all pretty? And the police, we have no police. We have drugs running everywhere. What good is it? Maybe should our focus be a little more on getting the house in order? Because you guys realistically approved these MMO raises through the cost of living through the year. Oversight. Why did it take me to come here? The guy from the outside that didn't know what he was talking about, no good for the area, didn't know his homework on this kind of stuff. I had to come in here and do that. You guys have been here for years. Because I'll tell you what, if the third class city code changes, unfortunately, no disrespect, guys like Ryan, guys like Jim, Susie, they would lose jobs.
No job.
They wouldn't have their jobs because there would be who would they oversee? Nobody. If we were able to survive on that, changing the legislation, they wouldn't be here. So what I want to say in the end is,
I would love that.
So would I.
well, maybe you guys like to be unemployed, but a lot of us
Yeah,
don't.
probably the way I have a job.
So if in the end, I believe if they pass this resolution, the council passed this resolution, you guys held it against the voters. You didn't vote for it. Now we're gonna do this and that. Now what's gonna happen is the word consider. We all know how legal terminology can be consider. When the end comes, you guys are gonna say, well, they passed the resolution. Ordinance, resolution, whatever. It was listed on the paper as a resolution. But they didn't consider it. Therefore, they're being non-compliant. Done. But if something like that happens, I've read reports from you guys. I've been a part of bi-weekly meetings with you guys. Shamokin, all we hear is Shamokin, you're doing great. You're following this, you're following that. You guys tell everybody behind the closed doors, everybody's doing great. Then you come to the public in meetings like this and we're not gonna have cops.
Joe, I gotta cut you off. Okay, I'm giving
Bob,
one
go.
extension after another, that's fine.
With Act 47 saying they did their job successfully overseeing our municipality, if we at the end of this can't be financially solvent, what could you say then for you guys in the oversight say, well, we did our jobs with the city of Shamokin if we're still in poverty in the end?
Ultimately, the city of Shamokin, the residents didn't approve what we put forward, and they made that choice.
Would you take cops off your street in your municipality?
I don't want to do it here.
Then-
And
then
by
take-
the way, depending,
Would you?
potential.
I'm scared. Like my wife sits on city council right now. You're talking a whole county, right, of people who are going to be pissed off. You think I'm unarmed. You think I want somebody in this county coming to my home to harass my wife because the city of Shamokin did this, or any of you people here?
Now, you know they wouldn't, because she beat the tar out of them.
Well, you would have to be set up outside.
Let's
Then they
vote
definitely
on
come
it.
by.
Let's vote on it.
I would say, to be honest, as it sits here, and I don't know, I would say there's probably a majority here that would not sue the county, even with the word consider. So why can't, instead of forcing that resolution, is there a deadline that they have to vote on that ordinance? Is there a,
If they don't vote on it, they don't get the 18-month extension.
but we're already in are we close to the 18 months? When does the 18 months kick in?
18 months.
That's a cycle now.
It's close.
June.
So we have no
No.
choice.
That's
No.
leave.
It's earlier than
We have
that.
no choice.
No, we leave in August
I believe
24th.
it's February or.
Okay, so we don't have to vote on it in December.
It is February.
We don't have to vote on it on December.
Well,
We don't have to vote on it in January.
it kind of February, but Mr. Lashinsky, that's where you're not correct.
Okay.
Only because.
I love going back and forth with you.
But this is not a back and forth.
I understand.
I'll tell you what the truth is. The truth
It's your
is
way
that-
or no way. It's been that way for 7 years. Go ahead.
Okay.
Tell me.
Joe,
Mr. Lashinsky, I am not speaking.
I don't wanna
for
have to
you.
do this, okay? I'm telling you, and you keep ignoring me. And I have people in the audience that are shaking their head like, we had to keep.
Shaking your head at who? Me?
No,
Bob,
I'm looking up here
Bob,
at
don't
you like, how much rope are you
Do
gonna
not.
give him?
Do not disrespect me.
Don't disrespect me, I've been asking you, Joe, and don't give me the eyes either.
She was answering.
I feel like I made a mistake with you. That's what I feel.
Well, that's your choice.
So, if I could do it again, it would be
Could
different.
I ask my question now?
Go ahead, Mrs. Ennis.
Thank you. I heard you say, I think what this was, that, Polk Township and Sunbury both have this initiative, this ordinance, and they're Act 47 plan.
They don't have Act 47 plans, they have
Okay.
STAMP. They were part of the STAMP program,
Okay,
Strategic Management Program, and that Strategic Management Program is a financial review and operational review, and then it puts forward some recommendations. So it's not like Act 47, it's not that binding.
is it a plan
It's-
they vote on?
Yeah, they vote on
And
it,
approve.
but it's more a plan that they should reference in the back of this, they could technically throw it on a shelf and just ignore it.
It's like our plan that.
It used to be like the EIP, it replaced their early intervention program.
Okay,
And in both of those STAMP programs, there's a recommendation about pursuing reassessment.
okay.
They don't, yeah, they don't have.
That was the only question I had.
You guys, the
I have
public
one
officials
more.
have a year to talk to these guys, the public gets
Sir,
an hour and
you
we're
had
getting
your,
cut off.
your hand raised.
It makes no
And
sense.
then we're gonna end this.
Hold on.
I have another question.
So I'm trying to just understand the facts of the situation that Shamokin's in, and you explained some of that. And some of the proposals that people put up about lobbying, and those are all proposals, whether they have consequences or whether they can be acted upon. So what is on the ground, the bottom line? Shamokin's been in Act 47 for X, I don't know how long, but it's gonna come to an end.
That's right.
And what is that deadline and what happens then?
With the 18-month extension, it's August the 24th.
Of 2023?
24, with the 18-month extension.
And so at that point, if nothing has been done and you can't pay off your debt and all, it goes into receivership.
Well, you're exited, and then there's a decision that would need to be made from,
And it's a process.
yeah, there's a process for that.
So
No
the
guarantee.
receivership, that would mean when we got to the end of the 18 months, we would say that you weren't viable financially. And at that point, we would have to consider, my department, the DCED, we would have to consider whether or not a receiver should come in and take over the city. The other option that Ryan mentioned is that once you get bounced out of Act 47, once your time lapses and you're done, it is possible then for the city to request that they re-enter. Now, there's a process to that. I mean, because this is involving lots of taxpayer dollars, state taxpayer dollars, there's always going to be a court process. So there's a hearing that would have to take place that would have to prove that the city continues to need. We project that the city will last for 6 months, 8 months,
Approximately.
if you don't increase spending after. But then at that point in time, the options are very limited. So I would have preferred, and I know they're gonna yell at me, but I have to say it, I would have preferred if the populace had voted in favor of the home rule, because then we wouldn't be even having this conversation.
No, I understand that. So I'm just trying to clarify. I understand that, but it gets to a point, a decision point, and you're saying after the 18 months you've had so long, it goes to receivership, but you said it's a process. And even in that, the city has a response that they're dropped out of it, but they can request to go on. But there's somebody in authority that makes a decision whether that's gonna benefit them, but we're still at a juncture in the road.
You are.
They have to function, and at some point, the options are limited, and at
We're
some
out.
point, somebody else is gonna make decisions on
Right.
how to take care of your debt
And then it's
versus.
taken out of all of your hands. It's all out of your
Yeah,
hands.
okay.
So
That's
that's
just a reality.
That's the only
That's right.
reason, and folks, that's the only reason that we recommended, any of our recommendations, any of the recommendations that come from Ryan, they're only to prevent the city from going under for the third time. And right now, there are extremely limited options. And that's the only reason why we're here, and that's why we're discussing that, and that's why it was in the recommendations.
Thank you, thank you.
I have another question. Can the city put the home rule question on the ballot for next year when there is another election?
It's 5 years from the first question. The first question was asked in 19,
Yes?
the 24th. You guys,
19 it was asked.
the first question, you have to wait 5 years.
So why did we wait so long to put that on the table?
There was some.
I don't know what you're asking.
Why, what did we, whoever, wait so long to address and put,
It was 5 years ago, Brenda,
putting home rule on the,
because it was
thing?
5 years ago.
That's what I mean, why did we do it back then?
That was back then,
It
it was
was.
5 years ago. The first question was on in 18, if I'm not mistaken.
19.
19 was the second. Oh, the first question, that's correct.
First question was
So Brenda, it was 3 years ago, but it was something that we had to work out with the council at that time to see if they would be supportive of it.
Right.
So council knew about this for a long time and was reluctant, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, to forward the home rule question at that time.
Okay.
Then it was forwarded when they were comfortable.
Right.
So,
This is the last question, Mr. Controller.
Oh, this phone.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see you raising that.
My question, I guess, is for city council. You know how rumors are, you almost have to ask someone in authority if the rumors are true. But it's rumored, what I know, it used to be People's Bank, up to the Geisinger, that the Geisinger 65 was interested in that. And they went to the city of Shamokin to purchase it. But they needed parking. They also wanted to purchase the parking lot. And that Shamokin City Council didn't want to sell the parking lot, so they nixed the deal and they went to Cotownship. Is that true?
That's absolutely false.
That's false.
And I'm not gonna elaborate.
Oh, no,
I'm
no,
telling you, honest to God's truth, that's false.
okay. The second one was that when the fun shop built its new store on private property, which used to be the fun shop,
Yes, sir.
that they originally went to the city and wanted to buy property from the city. Is that true, Mr. Slavy?
They bought the developer for the Dollar General out of Tennessee, okay? Through the bid process, landed that property there on the corner where the current store sits.
Right, but did they ever ask the city to sell property to them? Sorry.
That's what I recall, and I've been here since then.
Okay. Like I said, it's just that if those were two opportunities that the city could have had to generate money, boy, those would have been good opportunities, but obviously they were just rumors. And thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, sir. Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Okay, we're gonna go right into the work session.